everyone. It has been a while, but this is your Chronic Convos host, Ashley, and I'm joined by our Chronic Convos co-host director of WAAA, Emmanuel.
Hello,
And I know it's
everyone.
been a while. I'll share my story another time as to why it's been a while since we last uploaded an episode, but we have a really special guest today, and her name is Semi, and
Hello.
she hails from Georgia, and so she has a lot of really cool projects that she's working on. So, Semi, before we dive into everything, if you just want to introduce yourself, tell our listeners where they can find social media platforms or something in order to connect with you. And
Mhm.
then maybe also, talk about your projects that you're doing.
Sure. Yes. So, as you said, my name is Simi, and I am in Atlanta, Georgia. I have had lupus for about 10 years now, I want to say. Fibromyalgia for about 5 years or so. So, I'm kind of like learning to navigate between the two. Um, Projects that I've been working on are very I don't know, there's so many. But right now my main one is publishing children's books to teach them about lupus so that they can understand on their level for ages maybe like 5 to 8 or so. Just kind of using things in their terminology so that they can be able to relate it to their friends because all illnesses are not visible. A lot of people can look at a person and I look normal, I look fine, but I have several things to say the opposite. My diagnosis was a little tricky in the beginning. I was having a lot of body pains. I thought I would have like the flu, weather was changing. And by the time I went to the doctor, I have a really high pain tolerance. I didn't realize it was making myself worse by saying, oh, I'll take this, I'll take Tylenol, treating myself. When I finally went to the doctors, that's when they realized like something is wrong. My heart rate wouldn't go down. Apparently, lupus was attacking my heart at the time and my lungs. By the time they went in to do like scans, they saw a bunch of fluid around my heart. They went in to drain it. They said, don't worry, we're going to drain this fluid off. You'll be good to go. You're young. That was not the case. They went in, drained the fluid, and then my lungs collapsed. So it was kind of like a double whammy there. I was in the hospital for about a month and a half, and I had to
Wow.
go through a lot of like physical therapy because as you're just laying there, those muscles are getting weaker and weaker. So it was like for someone to have to show you how to properly brush your hair or help you put on a sweatshirt, it was just like, you gotta be kidding me.
Right.
And, the reason why I really want to push out these books for children is I've learned a lot throughout these years. And the most important thing that I've learned is how to advocate for myself and how to talk to these doctors. Because a lot of times they'll tell you one thing and you feel like you have no other option but to go with what they say. I didn't really know how to explain what I was feeling to doctors. All I could say was, oh, I have a pain in my leg. And they're like, okay, well, what? I didn't know how to explain the pain that I was feeling. I didn't know I was experiencing nerve pain. So I want children that are growing up that has these, issues to be able to distinguish between nerve pain or joint pain or muscle aches. Like that kind of helps us get the care that we need when we can tell them what's wrong. Because by them trying to figure it out from this angle and that angle, you get a whole bunch of medicines that you don't need, that don't help the problem because you have nerve pain versus joint. So I
Right.
want to be able to get that out there for them so they can
Oh, yeah.
understand a little bit better.
Yeah. And
And
then
what is like
what platform? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, man.
and what is like the number one thing, I guess, you try to teach someone? If you could only teach them one thing, and kind of get one piece of information out there.
To learn the difference between pain and discomfort.
Hmm.
That's a really big thing because a lot of times I'll think that I'm just feeling uncomfortable, it hurts, and it's like, no, you're in pain. But you've built up this high pain tolerance and you're just like you don't know the difference. That's the biggest thing with me. So if you could just like listen to your body and try to know the difference between the two, it's not easy, but once you can kind
Right.
of make that understanding,
Yeah.
it helps.
You and I were talking off air, but or before we started recording, but yeah, I've done the same thing. I just got done with the hospitalization myself for a really bad migraine that literally lasted 4.5 weeks. Um, and they still don't know what caused it, but they were telling me, well, just try this, and this. And it's like, I have. And it's like, I know my body very
Mhm.
well. I know if this, and I've had migraines since fourth grade, which looking back on it now, because the school nurse always used to say, oh, you're dehydrated, it's a headache. But now I don't remember exactly where it was located because it was so long ago, but children's books would really help because I feel we're going to get diagnosed earlier and earlier now as soon as like there's enough research
Right.
to do that. Because looking back, I do believe a lot of my issues did stem from my childhood, and I didn't know, my parents didn't know, doctors didn't know because they're like, oh, you have a headache, take Tylenol. Oh, you have this,
Yeah.
oh, you were playing sports, that's why you don't feel well, like you must have done
Yeah.
something to your back or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And not only like you have I learned to advocate for myself and others, as well as I'm an advocate during my full time job as a hospital social worker, so advocating for my patients. But even with my patients, I've helped them learn to navigate their insurance company because that's
Mhm.
also a really important thing. And it takes hours sometimes, and like it wasn't until the other day, because I just got cleared to start driving myself again, that I was in the car with my mom, and she didn't realize how often, um, or like how long of a process it is to get something approved or to do this. And she was like listening to me, and she's like, wow, you really know how to navigate. I'm like, I've had to do this by trial and error. Nobody taught me. But
Right.
I know if I need this medication and how long I've been on it, and you're telling me that all of a sudden you're going to have a doctor who doesn't even know me say, no, she doesn't need that anymore. Like, and
Yeah.
I fear and feel that this is going to get a lot harder and
Hmm.
worse due to our political climate right now, and also not having a physician in, I forgot what the position's called, but it's what Dr. Fauci was, right? And it's now what RFK Jr. is. While he's an advocate for autoimmune issues or chronic issues, it's just like, okay, so what are you going to do about it?
Hmm.
Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, so that's why this is so important for us to have this platform so we can reach as many people as possible. But then
Right.
also that you're writing a children's book, and this will help their parents understand too. Like, oh my gosh,
Definitely.
maybe it isn't a headache that my
Hmm.
child is experiencing. Maybe we should look into
Yeah.
you
Because that's
know,
how it was for me. I
yeah,
was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis when I was maybe like 11, 12. But
wow,
as a kid, I didn't realize how important it was, like managing that. I remember coming to my mom telling her like my hands hurt really bad, and they would turn colors, like they would turn like white, and then out of nowhere, dark, dark purple. And I'm like, but we're thinking, oh, it's because it's cold outside. She doesn't want to stand at the bus stop. Like that's what we were thinking then, and then realizing that it was arthritis and Raynaud syndrome, like
I
all these
have
other things
Raynaud's as
came with
well.
it.
Yep.
And it was just
Uh-huh.
like, how do
Yeah.
you know this,
Right.
as a child? But you know that this doesn't look normal for your hands to be two different colors in the
Right.
middle of the day.
Right.
So it was a lot. And I feel like as more research goes on, more kids can be, diagnosed at a younger age, which is why I feel like I want to be able to push out certain things to help them and their families because everyone's going to need the help.
Oh yeah. Do you
Right.
think that there's anything like in your childhood that you kind of missed out on as a result of your illness that you kind of wish had been different?
No, if anything, I came from a really like strong mom. So she, even when I came home from the hospital from my initial lupus diagnosis, I had nurses coming in to try to help me. And I was like, I don't need you guys. I got it from here. Did not have it, but I learned how to do it. I feel like as a kid, I didn't give myself room to rest because I wanted to keep up with my peers around me. Didn't realize that was kind of making it a little worse.
Hmm.
But because I didn't have that family to say, "Hey, look, this is a major issue that you have right now. You're not like everyone else, and it's okay that you're not like everyone else." But I came from a family that was like, "Oh, you're no different from the rest. Get out there, go play, go do." And it was just like I didn't know. And I feel like if the knowledge was there for the parents, then it would have been able to be relayed a little bit better to me. But no one knew what these things were then,
Hmm.
Yeah,
you
looking back
know?
for me in like high school, um, I would get tired all the time. And yeah, you know, sometimes I procrastinated on homework and everything. But I
Mhm.
remember always taking a shower and having to rest after. And I'm just like, oh, it's just I'm really tired. I
Yeah.
didn't sleep well the night before, or whatever. Looking back at that now, it's like, well, I still have that as an adult.
Hmm.
Like, I want to just sleep after my shower,
Right.
not because I feel relaxed necessarily, but I'm tired. Even though I have a
Yeah.
shower chair, it's a lot of, like, people don't realize, like, there's a lot of movements you have to do to take a shower. And
Yeah.
so, you know, and again, my dad, you know, was in healthcare and still wasn't able to identify, you know, like see the signs either. And so it's just like, and we're so used to listening to a doctor because it's like, okay, this is what they said, they're
Hmm.
the doctor. But as I've said many times on this during our podcast, it's okay to want second opinions, and it's okay to ask lots of questions. And if your doctor doesn't want to take the time to do that, then you need to find another one. I know
Right.
for some people out there, the referral process to getting another doctor takes forever, but in the
Mhm.
long run, it may be worth it because
Right.
you want somebody you can trust. I finally have a team of 14 doctors that I trust each and every one of them. And it took a while to find my dream team, as I call them.
Mhm.
But you got to learn, yeah, like, you know, you were saying, you got to learn to advocate for yourself, ask
That's probably been the
questions.
most difficult part
Yeah,
about it,
of
advocating,
course.
because I've looked at like the problem patient, because I'm always like, no, let's try this. And they're like, no, we want you to try this one. Well, if this doesn't work, it's, you wanted to try it. And I'm just like, well, let's just see it. Let's try and see.
Right,
My thing is, I want to come off medications instead of keep adding more and more on, because the more you keep adding on, I'm building up tolerance to it. So now we got to go to another one. Now we got to go to another one.
right.
And it's really
Exactly.
hard, dealing with that. So, I know a lot of doctors, they don't like the natural remedies. They don't like, it's kind of like, big pharma. Like, I don't want to take all these pills though. I don't want to do it.
Right.
Oh,
So I've been trying to like find natural ways.
Oh, can't hear you.
uh-oh, you're
Oh, you
muted.
cut out there, Sammy. Oops.
No.
Did we leave safe?
Oh, she'll be back.
Oh,
Hmm.
frozen maybe.
Oh well.
We'll just keep going, right? Manual, is it easier to?
Let's see.
All right. Sorry about that.
Oh, there you
Okay.
are. Okay. You had cut out there, so we kind of we didn't hear everything that you were saying.
Okay. I think it's frozen on my
It
end.
is, yeah,
Yeah, the video's frozen. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how to get it back going. Yeah. I don't know. I see some numbers moving, but
Numbers?
at the bottom, it's like, I don't know. It's not moving. Maybe I should try to turn this off and come back. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's try this.
Oh well. Oh,
Technical
since we're
difficulties.
gonna
It's
cut
okay.
this whole part out. Also, Anju was wondering when we were gonna release hers or her
Oh,
episode
we
or
never
whatever.
released hers?
No, we never released Anju's
Oh my
episode.
god. Okay. I'll apologize to her.
I guess at this point we should record a new one because like so much has happened. Because now she's part of the team.
That's true. And she wasn't feeling well then either, so.
I don't
Mm.
know. It's still showing frozen.
Yeah, it's still frozen.
I turned the camera off, turned it back on. I don't know why it's doing it. You think I should leave and try to come back in?
I was
Yeah.
wondering, yeah, maybe try that.
If we, in case that doesn't work, we'd have to use Zoom.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we use Zoom, then like only two people can fit. So I'll
Okay.
have to leave if we use Zoom. So hopefully this works.
I think I have the premium because I got it for this purpose, so it won't kick us out.
Hell yeah.
So,
Uh,
what do you mean it
hmm.
can only be two people?
Oh, because like when I'm editing it, whenever I tried to edit the Zoom, where it was 3 people, it was impossible to make it look good.
Really?
It
Okay.
was a disaster. Oh, there she is.
Oh,
Hey,
Okay.
that's
there you
rolling.
are.
Hi.
Okay, good.
Yay.
All right. I don't even know where
So
I was.
you were talking about, and I was gonna make a comment how you're like looked at as a problem child. Like, no,
Oh,
I'm not gonna take
Mhm.
that. And like, I
yes.
always refer to myself as a problem child because I literally have an encyclopedia of issues and medications I'm on, and then medication allergies and stuff like that. But I think that's also where we need to change the vernacular too, because it's like we're not a problem children. We know what feels good and what doesn't, and we know what's going to work and not because we've already tried it.
Right.
And like you said, you were on high doses of ibuprofen and then you had
Mhm.
kidney issues, which that is something that can happen. For me,
Mhm.
my esophagus is eroded, or, it's corrosive because of all the ibuprofen I had to take years ago. And
Right.
so, and I can't take Tylenol either, not due to its properties necessarily, but it doesn't help. And it's like, why am
Right.
I going to take something that doesn't help? It's the tic tac for me.
Yeah.
So, I think also by being able in your children's book, like you said, it's okay to be different. It's
Mhm.
okay that you might have limitations and maybe you don't know why or what those are yet. But
Mhm.
also, if your parents know, if the school nurses know what to look out for, and that's the whole thing that we're doing in our education department of our organization here.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, a children's book would be so helpful. And I
Yeah.
mean, you got diagnosed really, really young with RA, and so I know that there's a ton of kids out there that have
Mhm.
Raynaud's and RA symptoms just like you had, and they haven't been diagnosed yet.
Yeah.
Right.
And on that note, like I want to hear a lot more about the book because like me and you have talked about it a lot.
Mhm.
Obviously, me, you, and Nicole. In case any listening doesn't know, that's our education director. So yeah, I guess tell us the whole story of the book, really, how this came about, your dream
Yeah.
for it, all that, how much money it's gonna make, all that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
See,
I know.
with this, since it's very new, I was trying to find the best platform to sell it on, and I felt like Amazon was going to be the best option. So I'm in the process of now getting everything submitted to them that they need. But with the book, it is, like I said, it's for smaller children around the age of 8. In my book, I have a character who has lupus, who's starting summer camp, and she's nervous. She's like, I don't want people to look at me differently because she has to take medication. She has to do all these extra things. Um, and she kind of explains it to her class as they're meeting everyone that she has a tiny superhero inside of her that is confused and
Hmm.
it's fighting the wrong things. And that's essentially what lupus is. It's a little thing in there that's fighting all the wrong things instead of fighting the germs that it needs to fight. It's fighting
I
organs,
love
and,
that
you know.
because
That's
I've
an
never
interesting
looked
thing.
at my immune system that way, but I love that.
Mhm.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, coming from like a child's perspective,
Right. I love that. Oh
they
my
can pick it
gosh,
up.
I'm gonna
So
start
yes.
using that one. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely. And once that goes through, I want to kind of like develop workbooks to help kids, learn certain things. These terms are not going to go away. They need to know what inflammation means. They need to know who different doctors are, what a cardiologist is, what a, neurologist. They need to know all of these terms. So, but the biggest issue has been, okay, how can you take, these big terms? It's going to be called a cardiologist forever, but maybe they can learn, okay, this is a heart doctor and this is what the heart
Right.
doctor does,
Yeah.
to try to simple it down for them so they can have an idea of it. And as they progress, introduce bigger terms. But yeah,
Right.
I have a really big love for like childhood education. And since my immune system wasn't the best at time, I couldn't teach in the way that I wanted to. So I'm like, how else can I still connect with the youth in what other way? And I'm like, this is my time, so let's go with it. But yes, that's the whole gist of it. I feel like I want to be able to come out with more books, whether I use that same character and introduce different things to her or however it may go. It's still in the developing stages for, branching off, but
Yeah.
that's the main one that I'm working on now.
Yeah. And when did you first start writing? I guess how did your writing journey begin in the first place?
I've always been into like poetry and things of that sort. I was always, my mom made sure I was an accelerated reader growing up. So when other kids were outside playing and doing all these things, I wanted to be in the house reading a book. Like I liked reading. Like Junie B. Jones, that was my girl.
I
Like
love it.
I loved it. And I always knew I wanted to do something with kids. I didn't realize that I was going to be diagnosed with all these things, but I realized it's not just children. I mean, not just adults that are diagnosed. It's kids too. But I when I started Light for Lupus, I started it last year, and that's kind of when the whole children's books and stuff started going because I chose the name Light for Lupus because I wanted to bring light to the situation. A lot of times people, they hear I have chronic illnesses and they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I hate that for you." And it's like, yeah, I hate the bad side of it, but I'm not sorry that I have these issues because
Right.
having lupus and fibromyalgia and all these other things has really pushed me like to get out here and do stuff because I'm looked at as a person who can't. And it's like, oh, I'm going to show you I can do it. So that's been the biggest thing for me is to not letting my illness get in the way and for me to keep pushing and show others like, hey, look, it's not always bad. Like I try to document my journeys of me traveling. I don't just show the good. Like I show the bad. Like y'all, I went ziplining yesterday and now I can't move today, but we're going to keep going. Like
Exactly.
I try to
Yeah.
push it that way.
Yeah. My family now knows that, and my friends know too, that if I'm gonna go somewhere with you guys, I'm either gonna need to take a nap,
Mhm.
like when we get to our destination, or we have to get there a day early so
Yeah.
I can rest from whatever mode of transportation we've taken there.
Hmm.
But it's just, and I always bring a lot of pillows with me, and I'm a heavy packer because I don't know what I'm gonna need. Like
Yeah.
my family used to complain about it, especially when when the airlines at first started charging per pound, and everything like that. They'd always get so upset with me, but now they
Mhm.
understand why I'm such a heavy packer. Even if
Right.
I'm going somewhere for the weekend, people are like, "Why are you bringing all this stuff?" And it's like, I just
Hmm.
don't know what
You
I'm
don't
gonna
know what you're
need.
going to need.
I don't
Yeah.
know if I'm going to be having a flare up and I can't wear that cute top and those pants. So, okay, here's
Yeah.
a top and pants I can wear. Like, and same with shoes. Like, okay, I thought I could wear these, but you know what? It's a
Hmm.
slippers or UGG type of day or moccasins. Like, I can't
Yeah.
wear something past that as fashionable as I would like to look. It's not going to
Yeah.
happen. So, and then I bring all of my medications that I may need, like not, and that's not even including the prescription
Yeah.
medications that I take, but I bring
Mhm.
everything. I bring my heating pads, like everything, and
Yeah.
like you, I look at the hand I was dealt, so to speak, or getting all these autoimmune issues. At first, I was so sad. I, cried for like a week and a
Mhm.
half, when I first got diagnosed with fibromyalgia and arthritis. But then I realized it's all about attitude. And like you said, it might take a lot of energy out of us. We may be like in traction the next day, but like, look, I got to go
Yeah.
ziplining in Costa Rica or
Yeah.
wherever. Like, I got to go to this
Mhm.
really cool restaurant. Like, the list goes
Mhm.
on and on. And again, now we are given an opportunity to have a platform to reach out
Yeah.
to others. And so I see it like you as kind of a blessing, even though it
Yeah.
sucks. I mean, I'm always going to be in pain. I'm not going to get better.
Right. Yeah.
Remission would be nice. I don't know because of all the issues I have if that's ever going
Hmm.
to happen for me. And I've already accepted that,
Hmm.
in case that is the road for me.
Yeah.
But
I just don't want people to
yeah,
feel like they have no options, because you certainly do. I mean, it may not be the ideal, like, traveling through the airport, we have services that help you, the
exactly.
wheelchair, and my family, they'll look at me and laugh like, girl, why are you? Because I need it and I'm going to use it because it's here. But getting over that
Unless
hump,
you want to carry me on your back, like those are
right,
the two
right.
Yeah.
options.
Getting
So,
over that was the biggest part for me.
yeah,
Like,
I get a lot of looks from people when I'm
yes.
parking in a handicap spot because they do have a
Hmm.
handicap placard.
Yes.
And I've gotten looks, and then some people have sold. I had a boss, an ex former boss, who's very unprofessional. She's like, "You don't look disabled," and I'm like, "Ooh," and that hurt. And then she's like, "Why do you need a handicap placard?" I'm like, "Well, I have chronic issues that
Hmm.
I I qualify for a handicap placard."
Right.
She's like, well, just make sure you're not abusing the system. And it's like she just like had no idea, and then automatically accused me of abusing the system. It's just like, no, these are accommodations I need. Like,
Yeah.
and she was super unprofessional. Almost,
Mm-hmm.
almost reported her to HR, but then I had to go out on medical leave, so it's just like forget it. But
Mm-hmm.
those are the types of things too. And when I'm in a wheelchair, like at Disneyland or wherever, I get tons of looks. Like, what is this young person doing in a wheelchair?
Yeah.
You know? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
but you're working on more than one book or just the one for now?
No, so I have that one from now that's submitted. Well, it's ready to go. I'm just trying to make sure I have everything that they like. All the criteria are checked off with them. They have a lot of different things that you have to meet. But yeah, since that one is done, I'm working on others. I'm just hopefully that one can be submitted soon. But
Right.
yeah, I didn't want to just like, okay, I finished and then just now wait, waiting for
Right.
Amazon to approve things. It's kind of like, okay, let's work on the next one until they're,
I
so I
love
can have
it.
more stuff going in. But yeah, that's
I
the
love
workbook
it.
is
So
You're going to be
tell,
the next Judy Bloom.
yeah.
yeah. Well, tell us, I guess, about the next book. What's your, I guess, next idea?
Well, the next idea was, like I said, the workbook. Like I want to be able to provide activities for them so they can learn as they go. But yeah, I want kids to be able to understand, like, what if it's a normal kid that doesn't have any issues and their parent has one? How can this
Very
child
cool.
help their mom, or their dad?
Mhm.
It's just a lot of things. There are a lot of books out there that we don't even realize. When I was getting into it to kind of look at like different writing styles, different formats and things, I saw so many different kids books that they're out there. Their puppy died. They're teaching them about grief or all of these things. It's like there's so many avenues you can go with it, but it's kind of like I wanted to go with something that relates to me. How I would try to explain it to like my niece, or simply because I'm not always myself when they come around. I want them to understand, Titi's having a bad day today. What can we do to make her day better? Like, how can we not make it worse? So
Yeah,
me
yeah.
being able to put those, in books so they can understand. But with kids, you have to have attention grabbers. Like, I
Right.
can't just say, oh, mommy has an illness. Like, okay, mommy has a tiny superhero that's confused and let's get them going, because their minds, I'm no different from them. I will be interested for a moment and then I'm on to something else. So, how do you keep them engaged? That's kind of been my biggest thing.
Right.
But that goes into finding a good illustrator, different styles. I mean, the list goes on. It's endless, but I'm I'm feeling pretty confident about it,
I
and
love
I have to
it.
understand everything isn't going to happen, in a straight line for me, but it's kind of like, okay, you had a curve here, but let's get back on track. Let's keep going. So that's kind of where I am now,
I
but
love
there's
that.
so many
And
things I want
are
to do.
you able to share the title of the book with us, the one that has been submitted to Amazon, or do you want to
Well,
wait? Like, you don't
it
want to
hasn't
jinx
been
it?
it's submitted through, but it's not actually like available to purchase.
Right, of
It's
course.
still
But
coming
when
back
it
saying
is
it's ready.
available, because it
Mhm.
will be, I'm
Yes, it's
putting that
gonna
into
be
the
called
universe. Just for us to
Luna.
like look out for the title.
Yes, Luna and the Tiny Superhero.
Oh, I love that.
Okay,
So
that's
yeah,
really
I'm
good.
excited for it. I'm just
Yeah,
ready for it to go out because
that's
I
awesome.
wanted to be able to provide it to like to schools, daycares, like to show that inclusiveness. Because when I was doing early childhood, I remember being in like pre-K classrooms where I had certain children that did have, certain disabilities, but they were included with everyone. And the kids really didn't know why, this child was acting this way. They didn't understand it. They was just like, what was wrong with him? But it's like, I had to teach my kids, even though it was like after school program, we're all combined together. This kid may be autistic and we have to treat him a little differently than the others. And I don't like when you ask me, do I feel like I missed out on anything growing up? I don't like the whole you're just like everyone else, because you're not. You're not. Like, you can still try and do the same things that your peers are doing, but essentially once you are able to understand that you have a disability that can get in the way of certain things, like once you learn how to maneuver with that disability, I feel like it's going to be so much easier. But if you keep saying like nothing's wrong with this person, they're just like you, they just have this, no, that just have this, that's something.
Yeah, and
So trying to
and
figure it
on
out.
top of that, the other thing that I've, taught my family and friends is just because I'm not complaining about being in pain doesn't mean I'm not in pain. I'm
Yeah.
always in pain.
Yeah.
Some days it's the worst pain where I can't get out of bed. Other days, you know what? Hey, and we're all guilty of doing this because that moment we feel good, we're like, "Ooh, I'm gonna clean the house. I'm gonna do the laundry. I'm gonna, plant in the garden. Like I'm gonna do all these things," and then
Hmm.
you get right back to where you were again. And
Exactly.
so it's that
Yeah.
fine balance, but also I've made it clear too, like I don't want that to always be the topic of conversation. You
Right.
guys know that if we're having like a family dinner or gathering, if I need to go lay on the couch, just
Yeah.
go allow me to lay on the couch.
Yeah.
If
That's
you
my
want
thing
to ask
too.
me what's hurting, I'll tell you, but I'm not gonna like make a big deal out of it.
Right.
It's just because I don't want it to overshadow
Mhm.
like why we're getting together. Like I live with these illnesses. I'm always focusing on it in my head and like, oh, well that thing's hurting today, So, but I don't always want to talk about it, even though I'm living with it
Right.
24/7.
Hmm. Right. Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, and then I know Semi, you and I kind of to, I guess, transition a little bit, and this is Emmanuel's specialty a little bit more because, like you, I've kind of tuned out a lot of the news. It's just there's so much going on, and it's overwhelming, and it feels
Yeah.
like things are not going in a good direction, especially with who is being, sworn into these different positions, and then with all these different, federal departments closing, our insurance companies and our access to health care and, what medications were prescribed have already been an issue. Like you and I were talking, Semi, I have patients who are substance users who get, the top of the line morphine or Dilaudid because they ask for it. Whereas when I'm covering from a knee replacement, oh,
Mhm.
I don't know if I can give that to you. I have to clear it to the doctor. I'm like, no, she said I could be on Dilaudid. Morphine didn't do
Yeah.
anything for me. Like, and I'm recovering from a knee replacement. And then they'll give me education. Well, make sure not to drug seek. It's like, do I look like a drug seeker?
Yeah. That's the biggest thing that
Like,
we have to deal with is that,
right.
and I hate that because they look at, us and they see our age and they're like, you're young, you're functioning, but I'm like, I'm not though. I'm not functioning at all.
Right. Have you seen my list of problems?
Right.
Like,
So that's the biggest thing. I went
yeah.
to a doctor and they told me, I went to a pain specialist and I told them that I was having like really bad issues with fibromyalgia because with fibromyalgia, it's more so like body and muscle. It's just like, if when that starts, I'm done. And they basically said fibromyalgia was like a mental thing. Um, and I'm like, well, no, it's not. I'm here to tell you I'm
That's
hurting.
what I was told in the beginning too. And it's like, are you kidding me right now?
Yep. It's a mental thing. And they didn't want to treat that because somewhere in your brain, and I'm just like, well, if you know, so we're just going to go off of your words. If you know that with fibromyalgia, it's something in the brain that makes our pain that's a 4 turn it into an 8, the pain is still an 8. Like whether it's in my brain or on my body, like I'm still experiencing it. So I knew then, okay, yep, let's find another doctor because even though the next doctor may not give me something like super strong, at least they're taking acknowledge to say, okay, yes, you do have this condition. And it's not a mental condition. This isn't a real thing. All right,
Exactly.
we're getting somewhere. Let's leave that one behind. But it's still been a process.
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
and
And I
then
Cool.
feel
finding people that can programs that can pay cover it. That's another thing.
right.
Oh yeah.
What are you gonna say,
Let's
man?
take a break. Hold on, real quick. My computer is about to die. I'm not dead
Uh
yet,
oh.
just giving you guys a warning. It may do so. Of course, that happens. We'll maybe cut around a little bit, edit around a little bit. Um, trying to think. So before I log off, I guess let's talk a little bit more about the political side of things, and then like we'll kind of,
Yes.
I guess, whenever it dies, we're just kind of go back to wherever we were doing. Maybe like the next, I don't know, 5 minutes, and we're obviously going to cut all this us talking about it. But
So,
yeah,
Emmanuel, maybe you can talk, like, fill us in, because again, like Semi, I watch the news for the weather and entertainment
yeah,
report. I can't handle the rest of the news. It's so overwhelming, and
Oh yeah.
Again, as I told you, we already have such major issues in our healthcare system. Our healthcare system sucks. I am thankful to my doctors for getting me on the medications I'm on so I can be a functional human being. But the fact that even with their help, I still have to go through the insurance companies myself, and then I have to fight with the pharmacies over the cost of stuff and everything, it's ridiculous. And that's overwhelming too. So now, again, uh, knowing that there's somebody in a very high position who has no experience, like isn't a doctor and has no experience like for the well-being of the
Yeah.
country, so to speak, it's just like that's really daunting, and I
Yeah.
feel
Oh,
things are going to get much worse from here. So
yeah.
but
I
maybe
mean,
you
I feel
can
like the
fill us
only.
in.
Oh yeah. I'd say like the only like good thing about because I wrote an article on the Invisible Voice. That's our news network about kind of like pros and cons. Of course, there's a lot of cons. The only good thing I guess I'd have to say is that he was an environmentalist lawyer for years, so he is like very focused on the environmental causes of autoimmune diseases because that's been a big blind spot, I would say. But kind of moving on from that, I feel as if the biggest problem that we're going to see soon is the cutting of the Department of Education because if that does happen, that also means that IEPs, because that's where IEPs are defined, is in the Department of Education. Without them, there would be no one to enforce that at all. No one to look after all the kids in school who need that extra help that they need. And of course, some
Yeah,
states
they need
have things put in place,
accommodations.
but oh yeah, and they still, of course, have the ADA in place, but the IEPs would be severely impacted if we don't have the Department of Education specifically there doing that. Of course, as an education award, that's huge for us. I know huge for a lot of people who are kind of in this situation.
Hmm.
Yeah, uh, and I hope the ADA stays intact. Again, it's just like it's hard to know, like because why they're cutting everything. So, like, what if they were to get rid of the ADA? They don't like diversity, so does that follow in that category? Like, where are they going with this? And nobody knows, and that's what's even
Yeah,
scarier. And then, yeah, the
yeah.
Department of Education, like you said, so kids K through high school are now not going to get accommodations that they deserve and that they need in order to get through
Well, they
school
still,
as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, they still get, of course, some accommodations. Still have the ADA. The school can't just completely blow someone off. But
No,
I
but if
think, of course,
federally
without
it's like,
IEPs, it's a massive problem. That makes actually accessing those rights so much harder for so many students.
right, that's what I'm getting at, because if
Oh
the
yeah,
Department of Education is cut completely, we already don't have enough people in education who are specialists with IEPs, and we already don't have enough of just healthcare providers and everything. So if everything like disperses, well, there goes like half of those people that were helping already huge caseloads, and like what do we do now? And yeah, again, it's just very daunting and overwhelming. And maybe you know more about this than not. Is there anybody that is trying to make it loud and clear that you're going to do like detrimental, like the damage that's going to be done is going to be like tremendous if the Department of Education is completely cut?
I mean, it's shocking how much radio silence there actually is when it comes to how these things will impact people with chronic illnesses. Most of the backlash, of course, is cuts to healthcare, which hurts us a lot, right? I mean, massively. But in terms of like IEPs or like disability kind of policy, I haven't really heard a damn thing from anyone. It feels like a massive blind spot for people in a way that it would never be for any other group that would be impacted disproportionately, or it's race or gender. Unfortunately, we're at like the bottom of the totem pole in terms of what people actually care about. And it's reflecting also in what the activism is. I mean, there's lots of good activism for these different causes, but there's not a lot of actual activism for us.
Right. Right.
Yeah, again, really scary. And I was sharing with you, and then Semi has shared too. Like we're both on, um, biologic injections or infusions that cost so much money. And thankfully, we have insurance. And on top of that, we have like a savings card program that we can utilize. Um, but I'm
Like, what
really
happens
afraid.
to that if they
Right,
do start like cutting certain things? Like, what happens to the companies that gives us like the savings cards and
right,
the copay assistance? And because if
right.
I didn't have that, I could not get those infusions. Like, I
Same.
couldn't. No,
I don't have $9,000, which is how much
no.
they told me my injection I take every 12 weeks is. Like I don't have
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
I'm not in the, 1% that
Right.
the whole administration is turning into in terms of billionaires and everything that can't
Hmm.
afford that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if they get rid of Medi-Cal, for that's what it's called in
Hmm.
California, or Medicaid, or if they do something like where they cut a lot of stuff from those programs, people also in our community are going to be severely impacted. That's how
Right.
they are able to function as well, or just survive in many ways. So yeah,
Right.
again, it's very nerve-wracking.
Yeah, and I'll second you on that. Where my medication right now is completely free with the state of Pennsylvania, right? So right now I don't have to pay anything. If I lose that coverage, it's $4,000 every single month, which is just absolutely insane. $4,000 to stay alive, basically. So that's my rent for being alive. I mean, 4,000
Yeah.
every single month. When I first kind of had that problem, I just couldn't pay for the medication, and I just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and it kind of makes me pissed off. And there's going to be a lot more people who are going through that, just because for no reason, essentially.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
my mom is on a medication for one of her health issues that, despite having like double coverage, because she has Medicare, she can't qualify for like a savings program. But for like, I don't know, a month supply maybe, or a few weeks supply, I don't remember how much it is. It's $500. And it's like, that's a lot of money. And like, why should she have to pay this, especially when there's no substitute medication for it? There's no other generic brand she can take.
Right.
It's this medication or nothing. So, do I decide to try to make it financially harder on myself to pay for a medication that I need to function? Or do I just let myself not function, and that then I can't work? So then I'm really going to be in a financial bind, and because there's not going to be government assistance, helping me stay at home, like on disability or whatever. So
Yeah.
then what do we do?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the only thing I've been trying to pay attention to, because I mean, while everything is going to affect me or a loved one in our country, it's just like, well, how is this going to affect me? And then how can we turn this so we can bring so much awareness to it, and
Hmm.
like get people, like you said, no more radio silence, get us loud and proud, and like let's prevent damage from happening.
Yeah. And
Right.
speaking
I
of
Yeah.
agree.
radio silence, I actually have to
Ah,
go. The
all
computer's
right,
at dead at
amazing.
this point. So it's a great way of like ending things out. But yeah, I mean, I guess you two kind of keep going. But yeah,
Sure.
goodbye for now.
Yeah. All right, Emmanuel. So Semi, where can people follow you so they can follow your journey through becoming an
Mhm.
author, and as
Yeah.
well as just the other projects that you are working on?
Hmm.
Because I know you have a lupus walk coming off. So
Hmm.
firstly, where can people learn to follow you?
Yeah.
How
So
could
if they
they?
go to on Instagram, Light for Lupus, they'll find a lot of my different things there as far as like lupus walks coming up, lupus galas. I will be speaking at one. It's March 1st. This month actually. Just kind of talking about the importance of research for childhood lupus. So so they can better have a better understanding. I'll also be posting on there about the lupus walk that's going to be in April here in Atlanta. Love for people to come out. I try to get my family to do it every year. Last year was a really big turnout that I had. I mean, I was so grateful for the amount of support that was there because it's like it does take a journey. And as I'm doing these things, I think my family is kind of like learning more about it as I go. Even though I've had it for 10 years, they're really seeing me actually put my foot out there and say, hey, look, we got to come. It has to be a change somewhere.
Right.
But yeah, definitely Light for Lupus. As my book, becomes further along and other projects, I'll be posting there as well. My main Instagram is Lulu, but that'll be also linked on my Light for Lupus page. You can also go to lightforlupus.com. I do post there as well. Um, but yeah, hopefully by August, I'll be able to have everything set up for my own lupus fundraiser. I did want to have like a lupus ball around that time just to get people to understand what I'm trying to bring out, what type of projects that I am working on. And, these things aren't free. So it's like, hey, look, let's get together. I want other lupus warriors to be able to come together and network and meet one another and shine light onto the situation. Hence, Light for Lupus. So definitely can check me out there.
Yeah, I love that. And again, I just love all the advocacy that you're doing. And because it will make a difference, even if it's just to one person. Okay,
Yep.
well, they can learn how to educate other people. Like maybe it'll
Hmm.
be slow,
Yeah.
but it'll build up to where we'll
And
accomplish
it's
what
a good
we're setting up.
feeling. It's a really
Exactly.
good feeling for,
Yeah.
someone to reach out and say, hey, such and such was diagnosed. I gave them your number. Great.
Right.
Like let's talk. Like I'm here. Like I can only give you what has worked for me and what did it. I can give you my experiences because if you're new coming into this, I mean, it does help hearing, just because this medication didn't work for me, it may work for you. But let me tell you my side effects of what happened with me.
Hmm.
Lupus can be it can be very controlling. It takes what it wants, it does what it wants, whenever it feels like it. But I do like to be able to provide some sort of support there because when I was first diagnosed, I felt like I was by myself until I found those resources. So I was going to support groups, weekly with people who have been diagnosed longer than I've been alive, and that helps. They give me the right questions to ask my doctors, they give me different tips to do. Like these things are so important to have that support there.
Oh, 100%. I was going to say, like, join support groups, whether they're on Facebook or I don't think there's a lot of in person
Hmm.
support groups, unfortunately, which there should be.
Yeah.
And I wish that was something we could spearhead, but it's a little hard to
Yeah.
do that, like, okay, we're going to do a support group here, and then we're going to do one in
Yeah.
Atlanta, and then we're going to do one in,
Hmm.
Iowa, but they're all different,
Yeah.
you know, um,
Virtual is a
that's
little
not
bit
us running
easier.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Um, but yes, support groups have really helped me more for me just because I really learned how to like accumulate the knowledge and everything. And then also being working in healthcare myself, I've
Hmm.
just learned a lot from that. But what really helps me in these support groups is one, not making me feel like I'm the only one because like you and I were talking, nobody else in our family has any of these issues that we
Right.
know of, which that was another blessing that came out of this diagnosis. I decided, okay, well, I want to find my extended family. I
Hmm.
want to see what their health issues were, if they even talked about them, or there's family knowledge about that because that generation was very proud and didn't
Yeah.
complain at all. And my great grandmother on my mom's side apparently was in and out of the hospital all the time, but they called her a hypochondriac
Hmm.
for always complaining of whatever her issues were. And I don't know what her issues were. My mom doesn't remember either, so maybe I got some
Yeah.
of my chronic stuff from her. But
Hmm.
so see, it's just like, okay, so if we complain, we're drug seeking and we're making this up. It's all in our head. But if we don't complain, okay, well then you're fine. See, it's just get out of the house and you're okay. Like, and
Right.
it doesn't work that way. So
Right.
support groups have helped me in that regard, but they've also helped me like I didn't know different like methods for pain that I could use. Like
Right.
a heating pad obviously has. I mean that's been one of my best friends. But then I learned that there's a neck, like an ice pack for your neck that like goes
Mhm.
around your neck, and there's a neck heating pad, and then
Mhm.
with my migraines, hey, try blue light therapy glasses. Like, like I didn't know these things exist, and so also just getting that type of information on how to, hey, having a flare up, what's something you guys do so I can like kind of handle the flare up, like.
Right, right.
So, tips and everything, like you said, and the fact that like, you're like wanting to put on a gala is amazing, and I'm all for it. Like, that is
Yeah,
so
yeah.
cool.
Yes.
I wish I could only strive for that one day, and maybe it will happen,
You
but
can.
yeah,
Just gotta do it. And I'm
right,
worried. I'm a little nervous because I'm like, where do I begin? But it's like, okay,
right,
secure a spot, secure a ticket platform, and just get to advertising,
exactly.
And,
Yeah, 100%.
the first one's always gonna be the first one. But I mean, if you don't start, then how would you know? So I'm
Right.
definitely excited for it. I love when people keep me in the loop. They, whether they're out of state, like I don't mind traveling. It's like, hey, look, let's go. Like, because I love to network. I love to meet people because I learn so much from, people that's been doing this way longer than I have. So I'm always open for suggestions and meeting people. And I don't know, I like it. So
Right.
I'm trying to
No,
make,
and
light of the situation because it's not all bad. It's if I can, like you said, help one person, that's all I want to do. So,
yeah, essentially, yeah. And before we wrap up, Sammy, was there anything else you wanted to talk about? A PSA you wanted to put out there? Anything for Lupus Awareness Month you want to put out there?
and no, just keep it. If you follow that page, like for lupus, if there's anything that's going on in my area or for other people, I do, post things for them as well if I come across it. Um, I'm always sharing because I want people to be able to find their tribe. So just, lifeforlupus.com, life for lupus on Instagram, and you'll find me there.
Right. And yeah, and then if you have any friends or family that would love to come on and tell their story as
Mhm.
well, let us know. And for the listeners out there, you guys know to follow me at Chronically Gimperella on Instagram. And then for Chronic Convos, we're also on Instagram.
Mhm.
And I'm sorry, on Instagram, we're chronic.convos on Instagram. And then also you can find us on YouTube and Spotify right now under Chronic Convos. So, yeah, this has been so much fun, Sammy, and I'm
Yeah,
so
thanks for
glad I
having
got to
me.
meet you. And I can't wait to follow your journey
Yes.
and get updates and everything. I mean, you're just doing amazing
Mhm.
stuff, and I know it's eventually gonna grow into what you're hoping
Yeah.
it will. And yeah, I can't wait for it. The children's
Yeah.
books, I'm so excited. Next Judy Bloom here, everybody. So
I'll definitely
so
keep you posted. Maybe come back
yeah.
whenever I have the hard copy in hand.
Yes, please, please. We'd love
Yeah.
to have you back. And yes, please,
Hmm.
because we'd love to, yeah,
Yeah.
see your book, and then I'll have to get a book of yours, and you'll have to sign it and
Yes.
autograph it and give it back.
Love
So it's like
to.
I remember when she was in the beginning
Yes.
stages of this.
Love
So
it.
yeah, yeah. Well, everyone, again, remember to like and subscribe on Spotify as well as YouTube, and please, because we always want to grow our numbers. Um, with the TikTok going off air for a little bit and then coming back now, we're still working on that page for ourselves, but
Yeah.
you'll eventually see us on there as well. So
Okay.
yeah, so everybody, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. All right, bye.